We're on the road in Grand Island at an international trade seminar sponsored by Nebraska Congressman Adrian Smith. Pleased to be joined now by Ambassador Darci Vetter, who is the Chief Ag Negotiator with the U.S. Trade Reps Office. And Ambassador, everything going on right now, you're spending a day in Nebraska.
Well, absolutely. First of all, I'm from here. My folks farm just down the road. It's great to be able to be home. But seminars like this one are incredibly important to make sure that individuals who want to be in the trade space or who are wondering what's happening in trade policy have an opportunity to get that information. So really pleased to be here. But you're right. This is an incredible time for U.S. trade policy, and it seems like a lot of it is all coming together this week. We have the President of China who will be in town, President Xi. We have a number of issues related to agricultural trade that we're hoping to discuss with him and with his officials. EU Trade Commissioner Cecilia Malmstrom is in town this week talking about the transatlantic trade and investment partnership and how to move those negotiations along. And of course, we are in the final throes of the Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations. We hope to be able to pull that negotiation together and really conclude it in a matter of weeks. So working hard on that.
Sounds like on the TPP round, most of the agriculture issues are settled. We're now looking at other, like automobile and other ancillary things to maybe get that finally pushed through.
That's right. The majority of all of the outstanding issues are completed. We made tremendous progress at a round we held in Hawaii earlier this year. But there are a couple of agricultural issues that remain outstanding, and that's finding a good deal for the United States on dairy, which we continue to work hard on. And sugar trade is always one of the last items settled. But again, I think we're in a position to bring home a good deal for farmers and ranchers on both products.
As we look, a group from Nebraska just got back from Japan. In fact, Lieutenant Governor took a group, and then Governor Ricketts was also there. Talk about the importance of states going to those countries. Does that help bolster your position as you go and deal with them and to make sure that everybody's kind of playing on the level playing field?
Absolutely. I think it's very important that states are working now to forge the relationships to take advantage of new market access to these countries that will come through TPP and other agreements. But also it just boosts confidence about what kind of trading partner we will be. And I think Nebraska's done a great job at forming long-term relationships with their buyers and importers of Nebraska products over the years. And that confidence in the way that we do business and the quality that we provide really does help resolve trade disagreements when they happen, and it can help us negotiate these agreements as well.
As we look down the road, I mean, the TPP is one of the things that we've been focusing on. So we move on from there. There's the transatlantic. That probably won't be near as maybe controversial or take as long as the TPP, or it's just hard to tell.
Well, the TPP is interesting in that you have countries at very different levels of development all at the table together. And so trying to find one set of agreements that meets all of our needs and takes advantage of the opportunities there can be a challenge. And anytime you have 12 countries at the table, finding a consensus solution can be tough. But TTIP, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, brings maybe a different set of challenges. And, you know, the EU has much higher tariffs than we do. But the key issues that are keeping our products out of Europe really tend to be the sanitary and phytosanitary issues and the different approach that the EU takes to regulation of products like biotechnology, the kinds of pathogen reduction treatments they allow on treatment of meat products for export. So the issues are different but still difficult, and some of them are sort of cultural in nature, and those are always hard to figure out how to discuss them.
With China Prime Minister coming to town, obviously currency manipulation is one that is on the minds of course folks here everywhere. I'm sure also with you is dealing with trying to make sure that we have ample fairness when it comes to being able to sell our products against them or even into them.
I think that's right. I think there are concerns about recent actions that were taken, but you know, bringing the Chinese currency more in line with international rates, of course, is something that we have asked and continue to ask China to do. And obviously, currency and exchange rates have a big impact on how imports and exports flow, so we always watch those closely. But it will not be a direct discussion of currency and sort of our ag issues that we'll be raising with China.
The other thing, and I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but talk a little bit about the EU. there's some instability in some of the EU situations. Is that a concern as far as some of the countries, Greece and other places, is stabilized a little bit, but there are still some folks that are saying, how stable is the EU, and when it comes to that broader picture of, it's important, of course, to U.S. ag commodities.
Well, the European Union has a lot on its plate. I think we've all been watching with great sympathy and concern as we watch the migrant crisis that they're dealing with. Obviously, the financial crisis in Greece and some other countries we're watching closely. And I think what's interesting is that they see trade with the U.S. as part of the solution to those problems, and that a trade agreement can be helpful for both of us in these times of greater fluctuation in international markets. So while they certainly have a lot of other political issues to deal with, we hope we can keep TTIP moving as well.
Then last thing is, as we look at everything within the Trades Office, one thing we haven't talked about in a long time is the situation with the country of origin labeling situation with our friends in Canada and Mexico. That's something that, after all these other issues, that's something that's still there and getting closer to finding what happens next.
Well, in the WTO process, it's entering that last step. We had a hearing just last week, and that hearing is to determine what level of concession of benefits might be appropriate for Canada or for Mexico. But I remain hopeful, and have throughout this process, that we find a way to resolve this situation short of any opportunity for Canada or Mexico to impose greater tariffs. But we need to work with Congress on making that happen. And then the U.S.T.R's role is to really reach out to Canada and Mexico with what new conditions we might create through that action.
All right, Ambassador Vetter, great to see you. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
That is Ambassador Darci Vetter, who is the Chief Ag Negotiator with the U.S. Trade Office. In Grand Island, for AgView, I'm Ken Rotches.